people. Well, hello, Pickens, and hello to South Carolina. It's great to be with you. We've had great success together. I don't know if you know it, but those crowds are going all the way back into whatever the hell street you have back there. Whatever that street is, they've passed it. There's nowhere else I'd rather be to kick off the 4th of July weekend than right here on Main Street with thousands of proud, hardworking South Carolina patriots who believe in God, family, and country. Do we all believe in God, family, and country? I think so. Let me begin by wishing each and every one of you a very happy Independence Day. It's a big day. We need our independence back, to be honest with you. Nearly 2.5 centuries ago, brave American patriots risked their lives for the majestic cause of freedom. Their names entered history as heroes and legends. They are indeed legends. They want to delete our legends. We're not letting them delete our legends. We're not letting them delete General Pickens either, that I can tell you. There will be no deletion of General Pickens. But names like George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, Patrick Henry, and South Carolina's own Francis Marion, and the great General Andrew Pickens. He's become very famous today, I have to be honest. This thing is all over the world. They have it broadcast. Look at all the fake news back there. It's all over the world. I hope they don't go back to their spreads where they're all losing lots of money because they don't have credibility anymore and start saying, let's look at Andrew Pickens. Let me see. What did he do wrong? Let's change the name. Let's change. Don't let him change anything. Don't let him change. When they want to change the name of George Washington, they've taken the name of George Washington off over 100 schools throughout the country. These people are sick. When they want to get rid of the Jefferson Memorial, that's not happening. But today, everything having to do with those courageous Americans who fought for us and sacrificed so strongly is indeed being destroyed under crooked Joe Biden, and he is crooked as hell, isn't he? You know, I've been hitting him much differently than I have because I've always respected the office. And then when they indicted me for nothing, I said, now the gloves are off. Now we have to say it like it is. He's a crook. Under crooked Joe Biden, I never called him that. I took the name away from Hillary Clinton. We call her Beautiful Hillary now. And because it was crooked Hillary, now it's crooked Joe, because it's a much more appropriate name right now for this man who's just destroying our country. Under crooked Joe Biden, millions and millions of illegal aliens are streaming across our border. Main Street is being crushed by catastrophic inflation. Our Constitution is being ripped to shreds. Our children are being taught to hate our great heroes. Hate them. You're going to hate Abraham Lincoln. You're going to hate George Washington. Men are competing in women's sports. How about that one? Murders, gang members, and bloodthirsty killers are being set loose on innocent people. And Joe Biden is stumbling us into the brink of World War III because he has no idea what the hell he's doing. While starting, and when you think of what's going on with Russia, you know, Russia now is at a point where they better make the right decision because we're on a course toward World War III, and the weaponry is impossible. If you ever saw the kind of power the kind of destructive force, and we have a man who's grossly incompetent, who's representing us. And if you look at the leaders of the world, these people are at the top of their game, President Xi and Kim Jong-un, and I could name almost every country. But we have somebody that's not at all. But while stating twice this week as an example, that Russia is losing the war to Iraq. Twice. Not, you can make mistakes on occasion. Even Lindsey down here, Senator Lindsey Graham. We love Senator Graham. We're gonna love him. We're gonna love him. I know, it's half and half. But when I need some of those liberal votes, he's always there to help me get them, okay? We got some pretty liberal people, but he's good. He's good. We know the good ones. We know the bad ones, too. We got some real bad ones. But even he makes mistakes on occasion. But you can't make a mistake by calling Ukraine Iraq. And then you certainly can't do it a second time because there's something wrong. With the help of everyone here today, we're going to win the South Carolina primary 7 months from now. Big. And on Election Day 2024, we are going to evict crooked Joe Biden from the White House. We're going to bring our country back. We are going to take back our country. We are going to make America great again. That's what we need. Make America great again. The fake news media has finally started to admit what we all knew. Joe Biden is the most corrupt president in American history by far. It's not even close. He's a criminal and a liar who sold his office to foreign countries and many other people. You take a look at what's going on. All of the stuff goes into the stuff he calls it, goes into family pockets. And it comes from many cases very bad third world actors, and nobody thought they were going to get caught with all of their phony corporations that they set up. The only problem is those people don't like to report on it, but they're actually having to start. It's very interesting. I'm just not sure I want to run against anybody else. I sort of like this one. And by the way, we're leading him by a lot. But just think of the massive Biden corruption unveiled in the past few weeks alone. According to Representatives James Comer and Jim Jordan, who are doing a fantastic job, by the way, at least 9 Biden family members were paid vast sums of money through 20 different shell companies for no legitimate reason at all. They can't figure it out. While Crooked Joe was vice president, he was using that as a cash machine. In addition, we learned the FBI has explosive evidence that Joe Biden took bribes from Ukraine, yet the corrupt FBI, it's out of control, not only covered it up, they stayed silent while crazy Nancy Pelosi, little Adam Schiff, how about that beauty, little Adam Schiff, and the radical Democrats impeached me. They impeached me. But that was just the beginning, because they also indicted me a couple of years later for asking questions about the Biden bribery scam. Just happened to ask. It turned out I was right. This is a sick nest of people that needs to be cleaned out, and cleaned out immediately. Turned out I was right. It turned out I was right. I had to go through 2 impeachments, and I was right on both of them, and it's been proven. And especially with the laptop from hell, it's been proven. It's been right there, right in front of their eyes. Last week, an IRS whistleblower revealed that Crooked Joe sat in a room while his son Hunter messaged a Chinese Communist Party top official, and he said, I quote, "I am sitting here with my father, Sleepy Joe, and we would like to," and by the way, he may not be as sleepy as we thought, based on all this stuff. "And we would like to understand, with the commitment made, what has happened? Why has it not been fulfilled? Why haven't you sent us the money? Tell the director that I would like to resolve this right now before it gets out of hand, and now means tonight." I didn't know he was a tough guy. They are with our money. They're not with our nation because they're giving it away to other countries. And if I get a call or text from anyone involved in this other than you, Zhang, top person, or the chairman, I will make certain that between the man sitting next to me, that's Dad, hi Dad, Remember, he said he was the smartest person he's ever met. By the way, at some time does Joe Biden say, you know, the sun thing's just not working out very well? At some point, but it won't matter if the press doesn't catch it. Remember that? But the man sitting next to me and every person he knows, you will regret not following my rejection and direction. I'm sitting here waiting for the call, and he says he wants it right now. I'm sitting waiting for the call with my father. Within 10 days, the Bidens collected $5.1 million from China for no reason whatsoever. They didn't do anything. Once again, Trump was right. Trump was right. They have these hats. Trump was right about everything. I don't know about everything, but we were right about a lot, Marjorie, right? A lot. Joe Biden is corrupt, and Joe Biden is a very compromised president. He's being paid off just like a common criminal gets paid off, just a more sophisticated manner and much larger numbers. But he's totally protected by the Department of Justice and by the fake news media, which has been weaponized to a degree we have never, ever seen before. This is a crime 100 times bigger than Watergate, and they just don't want to write about it. When I get back in office, I will appoint a real special prosecutor to investigate every detail of the Biden crime family of corruption. So incredible. And again, out of respect for the office of president, I would never be talking this way, even knowing a lot of this stuff. I have too much respect for the office. But once they do what they did to me and to you, by doing what they did, so corrupt, I said, now the gloves are off from that standpoint. What they've done is so terrible. So I'll speak differently than I would have 3 weeks ago. Because you never heard me use this kind of language. I wouldn't want to, out of respect for our country and for the office. But we really have no choice. These people are sick. They're sick people. But despite all of this, they go after me for the Presidential Records Act. Well, that's what they should be looking at, because everything I did was under the Presidential Records Act. We have a thug prosecutor named Smith, Jack Smith. He's a thug. He's had many losses. He's destroyed many lives, and they put him in charge. In the meantime, what about Biden's records? This guy has 1,850 boxes. He has boxes stored in Chinatown in D.C., rough place, by the way. He has them stored at Penn, where China has paid them almost $100 million. China paid almost $100 million. And nobody wants to even talk about that. He took classified information when he was a senator. And even Democrat senators say you can't do that. Charging a former president of the United States under the Espionage Act of 1917. Espionage, espionage. As Putin said, you are the most vicious president ever. There's never been a president that did this to me, and yet I got along with him. Isn't that nice? Don't forget, I ended his pipeline. First day, I ended it. I said, no more pipeline. In the middle of construction, Biden came in and he approved it. I gave javelins. Remember this? I gave javelins to Ukraine. They were the anti-tank missiles, and they knocked the hell out of Russia. But I got along with Putin, and it's good to get along with people on the other side. It's very good. The Espionage Act of 1917 is an act for a crime so heinous that only the death penalty would do, is one of the most outrageous and vicious legal theories ever put in an American court of law. There's never been anything like this. And by the way, almost all other presidents took the documents with them. You look at Barack Hussein Obama. Did anyone ever hear of Barack Hussein Obama? The Bushes took documents. Jimmy Carter took documents. You don't like Bush? Yeah, I don't understand that. I mean, he got us into the Middle East, didn't he, huh? Got us into the Middle East. $10 trillion, that's right. No more war unless we need it. We have the greatest military now in the world. I rebuilt it. Of course, we shouldn't have given $85 billion worth to Afghanistan, losing 13 great soldiers, leaving Americans behind. That's what showed the weakness, and that's one of the reasons, I think maybe a primary reason, that Putin went in, and that President Xi of China is talking pretty big. The Espionage Act has been used to go after traitors and spies. It has nothing to do with a former president legally keeping documents. As a president, the law that applies to this case is not the Espionage Act, this vicious, never used before, it's only been used on me over boxes, that I'm allowed to have the Espionage Act, but the Presidential Records Act, which is not even mentioned in this horrible and vicious and stupid, according to very talented lawyers, 44-page indictment, under the Presidential Records Act, which is a civil situation, not a criminal law. I had every right to have these documents, personal belongings and boxes. I had absolute right to have them. Joe Biden didn't, and Mike Pence didn't, and neither did certain other people that weren't presidents, because they were not covered by the Presidential Records Act of 1978, relatively new compared to others. But these scoundrels and thugs in our weaponized government are corrupt, just like the president is corrupt. So they decided only to come after me. Only to come after me. It's an amazing thing. It's called election interference, and it's backfired on them, because my poll numbers are much higher now than they were 3 months ago. And we were still leading by a lot 3 months ago, but now we're really leading. A lot of people are going to start dropping out. Watch, they're at a solid 1. One of them had a 0 with an arrow to the left. What does that mean? Can you have a 0 with an arrow pointing left? That means they got less than 0. I guess it's probably a double voter. These people that vote 2, 3, 4 times, I guess that's what they're referring to. They have 0 with an arrow pointing left. The crucial legal precedent is laid out in the most important case ever on this subject, known as the Clinton socks case. You know why? Because he took things out in his socks. Bill Clinton. After leaving the White House, Bill Clinton kept 79 audio tapes in his socks and his sock drawer. Well, unusual place, right? Of these tapes, some of the most important conversations in government were had. Talk to the leaders of many, many big and great and strong and countries, enemies of ours, a lot of them. Not only was Bill Clinton never even considered for criminal prosecution based on the tapes and all of the other things he took, but the tapes in particular, they were brutal. But when he was sued for them in a civil case, he won the case. In other words, they said he could do it. Judge Amy Berman Jackson's decision states, I quote, under the statutory scheme established by the Presidential Records Act, the decision to segregate personal materials from presidential records is made by the president during the president's term and in his sole and complete discretion. You getting this? In other words, it's a phony deal. Any normal administration, even an opposing one, would consider that to be the end of the case, but not the corrupt Biden regime, because they want to do this for election interference. He's getting his ass kicked in the polls, and he needs to do this for election interference, which is their new form of cheating. It's actually a pretty old form, but it's new to this country to the extent that they're doing it. The Sox decision also states, quote, the National Archives and Records Administration, or NARA, radical left group. NARA has the Constitution flagged, red flagged, you know that? And they have not only the Constitution red flagged, they have the Bill of Rights, because they say that they're dangerous documents. This is what we're dealing with. But they don't have the authority to designate. Think of that. NARA does not have the authority to designate materials as presidential records. They're the ones coming after me. NARA does not have the tapes in question, and NARA lacks any right, duty, or means to seize control of them. This is the decision of the judge. The president enjoys unconstrained authority. This is, again, the decision of a respected judge to make decisions regarding the disposition of documents. Neither the archivist nor Congress has the authority to veto the president's decision. In other words, The president alone, not the vice president, not allowed, not other offices, and not the senators. When he was a senator, he took a lot of classified information, and you're not allowed to do that. The Presidential Records Act does not confer any at all mandatory or even discretionary authority on the archivist to classify records. Under the statute, just to finish up, this responsibility is left solely to the President of the United States, not all these other people that say, oh, he kept some documents. What I do legally. In other words, whatever documents a president decides to take with him, he has the absolute right to do so. That's the law, and it couldn't be more clear. I don't think it could be more clear than that. Even the New York Times, of all papers, in a major article said that when it comes to asking for documents, I guarantee you this reporter got fired, from the former presidents, the only power that NARA has is to say, pretty please, this is the Times, pretty please, could we have them? Quote, asking nicely is about all they can do. And yet they reported me to the Department of Justice for criminal prosecution. So there it is. Nothing like this has ever happened. The Espionage Act has never been used before. These are sick people. These are degenerates that are running our country, and our country's going to hell. And I just might add briefly, you know, right next door, because these are all Democrats and they're all in total contact. They're in total contact with the Justice Department. That includes Manhattan. That includes Atlanta, Georgia, one of the most unsafe per capita places anywhere in this country. It's number one or number two. Worse than Chicago. You don't know that. People are leaving Atlanta. And we loved Atlanta. We loved Georgia. We did great in Georgia. Unfortunately, bad things happen. We can't let any of that stuff happen again, and we're not going to let it. But right next door in Georgia, the racist district attorney goes after me for a perfect phone call, even more perfect than the call I made to Ukraine, even more perfect. She's got the worst per capita crime record in the country. Murderers, think of this, murderers are allowed to get away with murder. They're allowed to get away with murder. They don't even go after him. The only one they go after is Trump. Let's see, didn't he have a phone call? And when you think about that call, many lawyers were in that call. That was a call made when I was president, and I was protesting the election results in Georgia. And they had many. They had Secretary of State on, Raffensperger. And they had many lawyers on the call, some ours, but many of them theirs. Not one person protested that call. There was no problem with that call. They didn't say, sir, I'm sorry, please rephrase. It was only a long time afterwards. They said, let's see, Trump made a phone call, didn't he? Well, we actually made another one that was so perfect that they refused to even show it or report it, but we have a copy of it. It was a perfect call. These were perfect calls. These were calls where you're questioning the validity and the safety of elections. And it's a disgrace that they're allowed to even think about it. But not one person protested until long after that call. And if there was something wrong with that call, I am not a stupid person. Number one, I'm an honest person, so I wouldn't do it anyway. But when people are on the phone, including many lawyers, do you think many people were on that phone? Many people. Do you think I'm going to say what they'd like to have? But the problem is, it's not borne out. I will tell you what is borne out. The call was supposedly taped in the state of Florida. And in Florida, you're not allowed to do, that's a two-party state. In other words, you're not allowed to tape phone calls. They taped the phone call to show you how nice they are. They taped the phone call, and you're not allowed. So that is the real crime here. They had a two-party state with somebody taping the call, supposedly from Florida. The Bidens took in millions and millions of dollars from Ukraine, from Russia, and from China. And now Joe has given China the green light as they open up, not even believable, military installations in Cuba, just 90 miles off our coast. Think of that. And that will end as soon as I'm president. China will be leaving. They will be leaving. They will be leaving. And we had a very good relationship. You didn't hear about Taiwan, and you didn't hear about Ukraine from Putin. during my 4 years. They say, how do you know? Because that would have never happened. They say, how do you know? They say, because number one, it never happened. It was never even discussed. They knew better. Joe Biden's policy is China first. My policy is very simple, America first. And by the way, is everybody warm enough? Are you sure? But this is South Carolina. We're used to nice, beautiful, warm weather. How about Joe when he's in Florida and he goes, it's really nice to be in New Hampshire. They got palm trees up. Or when he was in Ohio. No, how about Iowa? Well, actually, the best happened to be when he said last couple of days what he was saying about Ukraine and Iraq. But when he's in a certain state, many times he's gotten it wrong. It's wonderful to be in Iowa, sir. It's Idaho. Oh, Idaho. They grow potatoes in Idaho, right? No, we got a man who's grossly incompetent, and he could get us into World War III. And this will not be a war like army tanks going back and forth, shooting at each other. These are weapons so powerful, it's obliteration. He shouldn't be there. He shouldn't be there. Shouldn't be there for a lot of reasons, but he shouldn't be there just based on his competence. And tell him to take the cognitive test. That would be an interesting. Set a record for an all-time. I took it. You know, they said Trump is vicious and he's brilliant and he wants to take over the world, and that wasn't working. Then they said Trump is this, Trump is that. Then they said, well, Trump's, let's see. Oh, he must be stupid. Oh, he's stupid. So when I heard that, I said, let me take the cognitive test, and I did. Given and administered by a whole lot of doctors. And Dr. Ronnie Jackson of Texas, who is now a congressman, was an admiral, great. And as he said to everybody, Trump aced it. I aced it. I got him all right. And, you know, I never heard the stupid stuff anymore. So that one disappeared. So I think Biden should take it. That way he can get rid of that. They can get rid of that little statement about him being not so smart. Despite the Biden's flagrant corruption, the weaponized Department of Justice interfered to block the investigation against Joe and Hunter, stopped felony charges, and even secretly tipped off Hunter. This just came out recently about a search of his storage units, just a little different than what they did with the gun-toting FBI agents when they raided Mar-a-Lago. While Joe Biden used the DOJ to cover up his own crimes, he ordered his top political opponent, me, arrested. They arrested me right in the middle of our presidential election, which Joe Biden is losing by a lot. They rigged the presidential election in 2020. We're not going to allow them to rig the presidential election of 2024. Never forget, our enemies want to stop me because I am the only one who can stop them. If these corrupt persecutions of our people succeed, they will complete the takeover of this country. This country will be taken over by these lunatics and destroy your way of life forever. And you know, when that happens, there's no coming back. It'll be gone. Communism. Remember, I used to use the word socialism. They passed that station a long time ago. Communism. They're fascists, Marxists. They want to take away my freedom because I will never let them take away your freedom. I will never let it happen. They want to silence me because I will never let them silence you. And in the end, they're not after me, they're after you. And I just happen to be standing in their way. It's an honor to do so. And it's no wonder the swamp is getting truly desperate, because as we do better and better and our poll numbers rocket, they get more and more vicious. They have all these vicious thugs, just vicious, horrible thugs. In the new premise poll, we are at 59%, and that's with all of these people running. We have a massive lead. In the Siena poll, we're at 61%, the Republican primary vote against how many people are running now? Every day it gets bigger and bigger. In the Harvard-Harris poll, We're leading by 45 points. In another poll, by a pollster who I just spoke to in the back, we're up 61 points on everybody. 61. That's a lot. That's a lot. In the National Public Affairs poll here in South Carolina, we are leading by many, many points. In fact, so many points, they didn't even want to put out a number. They said, whatever the hell it is. And you have, as you know, Tim Scott, who happens to be a good man, by the way. But you have Tim Scott and you have Nikki Haley running. But leading by so much that people don't even want to put out the numbers. They don't even believe them. And we're leading Biden by many, 6% in the Harvard-Harris poll. Remember, you would hear 6% is out for a Republican. That's considered a landslide because they start off, number one, they start off cheating like hell. Okay, forget that. But they start off with lots of people that I don't think are going to vote for them anymore, like unions, like civil service, like others. They have an automatic base of probably 35%. The Republicans don't have that base. We have to win the entire East Coast like I did. We won Florida. We won Georgia. We won 2016. We won everything. We ran up the East Coast, and all of a sudden, we won a state that hadn't been won in many, many, many years, the state of, not the state. We run a wonderful, beautiful place. Did anyone ever hear of Pennsylvania? Pennsylvania. We won Pennsylvania. We won Pennsylvania by a lot. And we just ran the board. And they had things going on, but we won by so much. So the key to this is you have to win. You have to swamp them. If you can swamp them, okay, if you can swamp them, you're going to win by tremendous, because at a certain level, they can't cheat. But remember, when you have open border policies, no voter ID policies, high taxes, high interest rates, no longer energy sufficient. We don't have enough energy in our country, and yet we have more liquid gold. Think of it. We have more liquid gold under our feet than any other country in the world, including Saudi Arabia and Russia. Think of it. We were at a level where gasoline was at numbers that nobody could even believe. 2024 is the most important election in the history of our country. I used to say it with 2016. I didn't think I had to say it with 2020 because we thought we were going to win easily. The American workers, she said, you did win. You're right about that, by the way. To American workers watching their take-home pay shrink and watching inflation destroy their family and their lives, to overtax small business owners, to the voiceless unborn child, to parents scared to death that one of their children will become the next fentanyl victim. By the way, drugs are up at the border almost 10 times from what they were just 3 years ago. To teachers, you're right, there is no border. We had a strong border. We had the strongest border in history. Now we have, I think, the worst border anywhere in the world. No country would allow it to happen, what's happening to us. To the teachers who simply want to educate our children, not indoctrinate them. To the female student athlete who awakes at 5 in the morning to train day after day, but is forced to compete against male athletes. To our veterans being denied the care your country promised them. I mean, look at what's happened to the Veterans Administration since I've been out. We had the most 92% approval rating. Now it's down in the 40s. What they've done to the Veterans Administration is disgraceful. To families who are seeing their religious freedom under attack and the seniors living in fear, their Social Security benefits and Medicare being drastically cut. To all of you, I have your back. None of this will happen. We have your back. America is tired of being ruled by the radical bureaucrats, and we are done with the likes of the Bidens, the Clintons, the radical left Democrat, communists, Marxists, fascists. The Obamas, Paul Ryan and Karl Rove, almost as bad. They're bad news. I promise you this, if you put me back in the White House, their reign will be over in the America that we knew, and we knew for a long time, will indeed be a free nation once again. It will be a free nation. We're thrilled to be joined tonight by a very special man. In fact, there are some people that say I gave Nikki that position at the United Nations because I wanted your lieutenant governor to become governor. And I will not debate them on that because I don't think I could win that debate. Because he's been an incredible governor. He's a fantastic man. Henry McMaster. And Mrs. McMaster, thank you. What a woman. What a woman. They worked so hard for me. They endorsed me from day one, and he went around the state. They both did, really, went around the state day in, day out. He said, sir, you're going to win, you're going to win. Well, I'm running against you, governor. He said, you're going to win, and we really won. But I had the advantage of you, and my opponent only had the advantage of Nikki. So we liked Henry. I've always loved him, and you're doing a fantastic job as governor. That I've heard from everybody. Fantastic. And again, Senator Lindsey Graham, who is really got, I'm going to have to work. I'm going to have to work on these people. I'm going to have to. All right. He's there. He's there when you need him. He's there when you need him. I'm going to get him straightened up. Do you mind if I come here and campaign a little bit for you? I'll tell you what. He was one of my earliest endorsements right from the go, and I appreciate it very much. I appreciate it. Lieutenant Governor Pamela Yvette. Thank you. Thank you, Pamela. You're doing a great job. Treasurer Curtis Loftus. Congressman William Timmons, who's really been fantastic. Where's William? He's around here someplace. I just saw him. William Timmons has been great. Congressman who's really a star. This is a shooting star, Russell Fry. Where's Russell? What a job Russell's done. Thank you, Russell. Congressman, or as I call her, she's both the strongest person you've ever met, and she is smart as hell. I don't know if she gets credit for that. I'm not so sure, Governor, but let me tell you, she's smart, she's tough. She can do things that other people can't. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. And former Lieutenant Governor, a very popular guy, Andre Bauer. Thank you, Andre, for being here with your family. As well as state representatives, Thomas Beach, Stuart Jones, Patrick Haddon, Cal Forrest, Doug Gilliam, David O'Neill, Melissa Lackey Harmus, and Jay Kilmartin, along with, who are fantastic. And thank you all very much for the endorsement. And Jimmy, thank you very much. Mayor Pro Tem Jimmy Davis. All these people endorsed me. The press doesn't want to cover it. If they endorse the other guys that are down at 2 or 3, there'd be headlines. We have headlines. But they all endorsed me, and I appreciate it very much. Many, many endorsements, including from your governor and your senator. I also want to introduce the South Carolina chapter of Moms for Liberty. Thank you very much. They have the best seat in the House, actually. And Pickens, police chief, a fantastic guy. He made this really happen. This is a big, I don't know how many we have. I heard 75,000 people are here. It goes so far back, I cannot see the end. Unfortunately, we gave the fake news a better position, so they're blocking the view of people that go blocks back. But it's big, a lot of people, 75,000. Pickens, police chief, Randall Beach. Thank you, Randall. And you heard from them before, the Rushing Brook Children's Choir, who were not treated properly. They're here. So we want to thank those incredible children with those beautiful voices. I wish I had a voice like them. Today, our campaign is also pleased to announce the endorsements of over 250 grassroots leaders representing all 46 counties in South Carolina. That's a lot. That's a lot. What's left? Is there anything left? I don't know, 250. I mean, how big is your legislature? How many politicians you have? Although you do love politics in this state, Henry. In 4 incredible years under our administration, we achieved more than any president in our lifetime. So many people say that. Everybody's saying that. Even the crazy Democrats are saying it. We delivered the largest tax cuts and regulatory cuts in history. And likewise, we built the greatest economy in the history of the world. There's never been an economy like what we built. We were lapping China. China paid us hundreds of billions of dollars. Nobody else got 10 cents. We achieved energy independence, and energy dominance was just around the corner. First time in at least 72 years. We had gas prices at $1.87 a gallon, and even lower than that in some months. After years of Washington betrayals of South Carolina workers, I ended the disaster known as NAFTA, the worst trade deal ever made, not even believable, and replaced it with the USMCA, the best trade deal ever made for our country. Although I would say the deal we made with China might even be better. They take $50 billion a year, but you know what? I don't even mention it anymore because of COVID, what they did to us in COVID, what they did to the world in COVID. The deal was so good, the USMCA, in fact, that Mexico and Canada are now trying to renegotiate it with the Biden administration. How much will they pay him, do you think? How much will he get? Don't do it, Biden. Don't do it. The Biden administration, because we suffered with the worst trade deal ever. We suffered for years, and now we have one that's so good that they want to renegotiate it. I knew that because I made the deal. Had some great people, Bob Lighthizer, some others. We had some great people. I stood up to China like no administration has ever done before. I exposed China, bringing in hundreds of billions of dollars in taxes and tariffs, pouring into our treasury. Now, all coming out of China, hundreds of billions of dollars when no other president had done anything, and exposed China as being an empire that is not very kind to us. A lot of people didn't know. They said, oh, isn't it wonderful? And when China targeted our farmers, I gave our farmers $28 billion straight out of the tariffs that I took in for China. So the farmers got $28 billion. So when people say that Ron DeSanctimonious is doing fine with the farmers, no, he's not. He's not. He's actually getting absolutely destroyed. He's getting destroyed. He's so low in Iowa. But after you give $28 billion to the farmers, I said, you think a farmer's voting against me? I don't think so. But DeSantis opposed my China tariffs, and he opposed helping our farmers. He didn't want to allow that deal to be made. Gave him $28 billion, and he didn't want it to happen. And he's doing horribly, by the way, in Nebraska and Iowa. We created the most secure border in U.S. history, built nearly 500 miles of border wall, got Mexico to give us 28,000 soldiers free of charge. Mr. President, we'd like to have your soldiers to protect our border, I said. No, 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 you cannot. No, no, we have to have that. No, 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 you will never get that. I said, yes, I will. 100% I'll get it. No, no, no. I said, well, then I'm going to be putting a tariff of 25% on all cars coming into the United States made in Mexico, which used to be made in the United States, and it's going up from there. We would love to give you 28,000, so would you like some more? It was an amazing negotiation, but it gave us the strongest border that we ever had, and that was just 3 years ago, and now you look at what's happening. They're back to catch and release. They catch them and they release them in our country. And they say, come back. Just come back in 4 or 5 years for a child. Nobody comes back because they're too smart to come back. And deported illegal alien gang members by the thousands and thousands, MS-13, by the thousands, the tens of thousands, we got them out. Now they leave them in our country. We appointed nearly 300 federal judges and 3 great Supreme Court justices. And this week, those justices ruled to move our country forward with a merit-based system of education. How big is that? Isn't that big? Isn't that great? In other words, if you're a worker and you worked very hard in school, you got fantastic marks, somebody that hasn't done nearly as well, who perhaps has not worked nearly as hard, will not be taking your place on a school, college, or at a university. They're not going to be. We're going by merit. We're back to the old merit system that built our country. That was a big one. That was a big one. And then yesterday, the Supreme Court also ruled that President Biden is not allowed to wipe out hundreds and hundreds of billions, probably trillions of dollars in student loan debt, which would have been very unfair to the millions and millions of people who have paid their debt through hard work and diligence. They paid their debt off, like that man right there, right? They paid it off, and now somebody's going to get free rides. No. They ruled against it, 100% against it. Amazing. And they also gave religious liberty a tremendous win. You know that. Not to mention the fact that 1 year ago they ruled against Roe v. Wade. Something said never going to happen. And you have to know how to discuss this, giving pro-lifers a tremendous power to negotiate and moving this issue back to the states where legal scholars and almost all others think it should be. But we now have an absolute power to negotiate. We didn't have that power. And people that believe in life will be able to stop radical left Democrats from killing babies in their 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th month, and even killing babies after birth. Because they are the radical ones. You know, they want to sell it differently. They are the radical ones. Anyone that wants to take a baby in the 4th month or the 5th month or the 9th month or even after, you remember the former governor of Virginia, the baby is born and then we decide what to do with it. Would kill the baby after birth. That's a great issue. The Republicans have to understand that issue better. They have to speak about it better. Have to speak about it better. That was a big, big win. For years they were trying. 50 years they've been trying to get it. I got it done. And it's a great issue for us. But more importantly, from the standpoint of the heart, from the standpoint of your soul, it is what you believe in. So you now have a great power to negotiate. Before, with Roe v. Wade, you had no power at all. I fully rebuilt the U.S. military, created Space Force, defeated ISIS, and brought our troops all back home. We started no wars. In fact, I was the first president in many decades who didn't start a war. And for Israel, I kept my promise, recognized its eternal capital, opened the American embassy in Jerusalem, and recognized Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I love you too. I love you too. We've got a country that's failing, though. We have to solve the problem. We have to solve it in 2024. But most importantly with Israel, except they blew it, we would have had a deal with Iran within literally minutes after the election. But the election was rigged, and now Iran is trying to create a nuclear weapon. But we would have had a deal. They were dying to make a deal. I stopped China and everybody else from buying oil from them. Biden hasn't done anything. And we're in a very grave position with what's going on. That was one of the worst deals ever made, and now they're willing to make an even worse deal, this administration. I always fought for South Carolina, including by delivering millions and millions to your great governor, Henry McMaster, to ensure that Charleston has the deepest water port on the East Coast, the deepest water port, Henry, right? How about the West Coast? We have to go a little deeper? Let's go a little deeper, Henry. Come on, let's make it in the country. We'll go deeper. But all of that was only the beginning. Here is just some of the bold agenda that I'll immediately implement when we become, we become the 47th President of the United States. Before I even arrive at the Oval Office, shortly after I win the presidency because of you, I will have the horrible war between Russia and Ukraine settled. I'll get it done in 24 hours. I know them both very well. Zelensky and Putin, I'll get it solved very, very quickly. It should have never started, should never have started. All of those people that have been killed would be alive today. All of those cities that are just absolutely demolished would be up, would be prosperous. I am the only candidate who can make this promise, and the promise is I will prevent World War III. Nobody else is going to be able to do it. I will totally obliterate the deep state. We will find the globalists, warmongers, and the bureaucrats who have weaponized our justice system, and we will escort them from federal buildings. We're going to get them the hell out of government. I will end the disaster known as Bidenomics. He doesn't even know. 2 weeks ago, they used the term. He said, what is that? Now he likes the term, I guess. You know what it means? It means destruction for our company. That's destruction for our country. We will replace Biden's tax hikes with the beautiful Trump tax cuts. You know, we have to extend the tax cuts. Biggest tax cuts in history. I will cancel every Biden regulation that's harming South Carolina workers, and there are many, and they're coming into being every single day. We will stop Biden's inflation nightmare, and I will reverse every one of Biden's globalist economic betrayals. And once again, we will put America first, and we'll put it first like never before. To protect South Carolina workers and manufacturers, I will pass the Trump Reciprocal Trade Act, which I have one vote right here already. And he said to me, gee, that sounds good. You mean 1 for 1? But we had some senators that I don't think either they had a deal made or they didn't understand it. But it's an incredible thing. As an example, if India, China, or another country hits us with a 100% or 200% tariff, any tariff at all, we will hit them with the exact same tariff right back. And they will either withdraw or we're going to take a lot of money in. I mean, we have cases, many cases, and I'm not just talking about China. The European Union is brutal, where they tax us and we don't tax them, and we were all set to do it until we got hit with COVID. Then we had other things to do. Unlike Ron DeSanctimonious, who voted to gut Medicare and Social Security and voted 3 times to raise the retirement age to 70, Ron voted to retire. And you deserve that. You know, you deserve what that says. You worked all your life in many cases. Nobody's going to mess around with it. He wanted to raise it to 70. That wasn't the deal. I will always protect Medicare and Social Security for our great seniors. And in 4 years, I never discussed it. And one thing about a politician, when they bring it up, and if they bring it up, they'll bring it up again. To stop the Marxist prosecutors who release rapists and murderers while persecuting conservatives. And by the way, the Catholic Church is under siege by these people. So I don't know how any Catholic or any Christian could vote for them. I will direct a completely overhauled DOJ to investigate every radical DA in America for their illegal, racist, and reverse enforcement of the law. I will immediately terminate every open borders policy of the Biden administration and bring it back to what it was just 3 years ago, strongest border in history. And under Biden, other countries are emptying out their prisons, their mental institutions, and dumping everyone, including terrorists, big scale terrorists, into the USA. Congratulations. A lot of people have asked me for the parody of what we call the snake. Did anyone ever hear the snake? Did you ever hear that? Lindsay, the snake. Marjorie, you've heard it plenty. Does anybody want me to do the snake? Now, you know, it is very hot. It'll take a minute, but it is hot. Who wants the snake? Who doesn't want the snake? Nobody. Let's go. So this is, I don't really need it, actually. I don't really need it. We remember things pretty well. But this is about our border. This is about what's happening. This is about the treachery of what's happening on our border and the people that are coming in. And countries aren't sending their best. They're sending people that are, as you know, and as I said, in jails and mental institutions, insane asylums. It's a horrible thing that's happening. And I believe the real number is going to be 15 million people by the end of this year, Henry. So it's going to be terrible. On her way to work one morning, down the path along the lake, a tender-hearted woman saw a poor, half-frozen snake. His pretty colored skin had been all frosted with the dew. "Poor thing," she cried, "I'll take you in, and I'll take care of you. Take me in, O tender woman, take me in for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman," sighed the vicious snake. She wrapped him up all cozy in a comforter of silk and laid him by her fireside with some honey and some milk. She hurried home from work that night, and as soon as she arrived, she found the pretty snake she'd taken had been fully revived. "Take me in, O tender woman. Take me in for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman," sighed the vicious snake. She clutched him to her bosom. "You're so beautiful," she cried. "But if I hadn't brought you in by now, you truly would have died." She stroked his pretty skin again and kissed and held him tight. But instead of saying, "Thank you, ma'am," the snake gave her a vicious bite. "Take me in, O tender woman, take me in for heaven's sake. Take me in, O tender woman," sighed the vicious snake. "I saved you," cried the woman, "and you've bitten me, but why? You know your bite is poisonous, and now I'm going to die." "Shut up, silly woman," said the reptile with a grin. "You knew damn well I was a snake before you took me in." I think it's pretty good. I think it's pretty good. Give it to somebody. We'll see it on eBay tonight. 10,000. But that's our border. That's what it is. We're being misled, and it's vicious and violent, and criminals are coming in. And these countries are very smart. I know every one of them. I know the leaders. They're very streetwise people, smart people, and they're sending us their problems. And we're taking in millions of problems. When I'm back in office following the Eisenhower model, we will use every necessary state, local, federal, and military resource to carry out the largest domestic deportation in American history, starting with the criminals, starting with some very, very bad criminals, many criminals, murderers, many criminals. To further deter illegal immigration, I will sign on day one, executive order ending automatic citizenship for the children of illegal aliens. They come here illegally, they have children. We're the only country in the world that does that. They come in, they have children, and now the children, you say, "Welcome aboard," and then they bring their parents in with them later. We're the only country in the world that does it, Henry. In addition to build on the historic progress we made at implementing strict vetting for all immigrants, I will order our government to deny entry to all communists and Marxists as required by law. Our bigger problem is, what about the communists, Marxists, and fascists that have been here for a long time? The ones that are partially running our government. We got to get them the hell out, too. I will immediately sign a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and any other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content to our children. I will keep men out of women's sports. And I'm the one that started that. They all, by wonderful, brilliant people that work with, "Sir, I'd rather not have you bring that up." This is like 2 years ago. "I'd rather not have you bring that up," they'd say, Marjorie. "Sir," you know, a consultant, they get paid all this money, they don't know a thing. And frankly, Whether they want it or not, it's wrong. And it's so demeaning to women, so horrible for women. You saw the other day the weightlifter. 19 years, this record. And the woman was a great champion. They poured a quarter of an ounce on one side of the barbells, a quarter of an ounce on the other. And she did everything she could. I'll do it in the heat. It's hot as hell out here, by the way. Hot as hell. But we have to keep going. We have to trudge forward, right? Who the hell cares? You go home, take a nice cold shower, you'll be fine, right? But she took those barbells and she lifted them, and her parents were there, and her future husband was there, and they were going to watch her break the record by just a little tiny bit. Stood for 19 years. And she got up and she almost had it, but she couldn't do it. And then comes a nice guy who's now transgender. They said, have you lifted before? No, not really. Have you had any experience with weightlifting? No, not much. Well, it's your turn. Good luck. Oh, thank you very much. Bing. That was the end of that contest. And they beat the records by many, many, many pounds. It is so unfair and degrading for women. And you know, the amazing thing, because of our crazy woke society, and I hate the word woke, actually, because nobody even has a real accurate description. It means lack of common sense more than anything else. But because of that, because of these people, even the participants are afraid to talk about it. And as you know, I didn't do mandates, and we'll never have a vaccine or a mask mandate. We never did it. I didn't do it. Other people did. And we will protect and have protected our Second Amendment. I will defend innocent life like nobody has ever done before. Nobody's ever done that. 50 years and we got it. And now you're in a position to negotiate something really big because of what we did. I will bring back free speech in America. And I will move heaven and earth to fully secure our elections. We have to secure. We have open borders, and we have really bad and corrupt elections. And therefore, we almost don't have a country. And soon you won't have a country if you keep that up. Our goal will be one-day voting with only paper ballots and voter ID in all cases. But until then, Republicans must compete using every lawful means to win. We will restore patriotic education to our schools, and we will teach our children to love our country, to honor our history, and always salute our great American flag. And we will teach them the legend of the great General Andrew Pickens. Nearly 6 years into the American Revolution, the cause of the Patriots was looking very, very bleak. It was looking bad. Looked like they couldn't do it. One by one, the Redcoats were laying waste to southern territories. They were taking over vast amounts of land. But then the enemy made a fatal error. They came for us, the backcountry. They came to the back. That was not a good move. The backcountry. Does anybody know what the backcountry is? Because I do. How many people are from the backcountry, yes? They made a bad mistake. They came to the backcountry of South Carolina, and despite long odds of victory, he was given no chance. Pickens urged his South Carolina Patriots to stand strong and stand brave. At the historic Battle of Cowpens, just 60 miles from here, the enemy was fooled into believing the Americans were in retreat. But General Pickens would never retreat, and the people that knew him knew that, and he would never, ever surrender. The British forces were decimated, and the Patriots won a stunning victory, one of the most important victories to our freedom and to our glorious independence. Like General Pickens, all of us here today are in a battle for American liberty and independence. And like the great general, we must stand tall, we must stand strong, and we must charge forward to victory. We have to do it. This is the same. And I've been saying, people would ask me, who's our biggest enemy? Is it China? Could it be Russia? Could it be North Korea? What about Iran? I said, no, no, no. Our biggest enemy is from within. They're sick people from within. The communists, the Marxists, the fascists. Because if we have the right person running like I was, no wars, no threats of wars, no Russia going into Ukraine, no China talking about Taiwan, wasn't even thinkable, wasn't on the table. Because if we have the right person, but what do? They impeach him twice. They go after him like nobody's ever been gone after. And the people of this country will not stand for it any longer. From Greenville to Great Falls, from Columbia to Clemson, and from Charleston to right here with all of you, we stand on the shoulders of generations of American patriots who gave everything they had for our country and for our freedom. Our American ancestors conquered a dangerous frontier. They tamed the wilderness, they fought the battles, they faced down the enemies, and they poured out their blood, sweat, and tears to make this into the greatest nation in the history of the world.